In the Shadow of Katyn, can the tragic plane crash reconcile Poles and Russians? In the interview, German-Polish journalist and political scientist Basil Kerski.
The Smolensk plane crash not only killed President Lech Kaczynski and his wife, but also the top brass of the Polish military, as well as many parliamentarians. The pictures coming out of Poland show a country in a state of emotional turmoil. Is a country paralyzed by shock?
Ja, die Bilder zeigen die Stimmung in der
Yes,
Bevölkerung.
the pictures reflect the mood in society.
Nicht nur der Staatspräsident ist umgekommen,
Because the crash didn't just kill the president. His very popular wife also perished. Her death is significant because her popularity shielded Lech Kaczynski from his critics. But the death of the last Polish president in exile is also extremely traumatic for Poland. The person who, exactly 20 years ago, transferred the insignia of the state to Lech Walesa. The event marked the beginning of a functioning democracy in Poland. Then 20 MPs from all parties were killed. As you mentioned, the loss of the military elite. The crash is an event that has deeply shaken many people, because every Pole would have identified with one of these figures from public life. They didn't know them personally, but they saw them on television every day. And now they're gone. It's an enormous shock and loss. In addition, there's the background of Katyn, which is where this accident occurred.
Der Ort, an dem dieses Unglück geschah.
To what extent will this crash impact Polish history and the Poles' understanding of the past?
Wird eine große Bedeutung haben.
It will have a major impact, because we were just dealing with the challenge of keeping the memory of the Katyn massacre alive for the new, younger generation.
On the subject of Katyn, last year when the Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel met in Gdansk on September the 1st for commemorations marking the 70th anniversary of the start of World War II. Was that the beginning of reconciliation? Or are the people of Poland still traumatized by Katyn, which for decades stood as a symbol of Russian domination?
Katyn
is not just a Polish symbol. Katyn is also a problem for Russian society. Putin rightly pointed out that Katyn also stands as a symbol of the Stalinistic crimes of the 1930s. Russia's inability to confront the crime of Katyn has always symbolized Russia's lack of democratic culture. So this is more than just a Polish or a Polish-Russian issue. September 1st last year marked the surprise beginning of a genuine examination of the Second World War by the Russians. One has to bear in mind that the Soviet Union was long Hitler's ally. It invaded Poland in September 1929 and supplied Hitler with the raw materials that made the Second World War and this aggression possible.
Over the past 20 years, Katyn has strongly influenced the way Poles view Russia, at least among the generation which still experienced communism, sometimes astonishing the rest of Europe. Does the way the Russians are now dealing not only with Katyn, but also the Smolensk air crash, provide the chance for a new chapter in Polish-Russian relations?
I see the chance for the following reason. Putin has realized that Poland, above all with Prime Minister Donald Tusk, is an important player in the European Union, and that many in the Polish elite understand that a strong European Union is tantamount to a security guarantee for Poland. He's also observed that poor relations with Poland are bad for his image in Europe. So, to an extent, this is a shift in European politics. The signals he sent out are unusual, and Poles have welcomed his immediate, sympathetic response to the disaster. The Polish media has been very surprised by the precision and intensity with which the Russian authorities are helping and cooperating with their Polish counterparts. There's a real hope that relations can take a step forward, and a spirit of openness can enter the relationship.
Ja, es gibt eine große Hoffnung, dass es zu einer Annäherung kommt, zu einer Versachlichung der Beziehung.
I have to add that Katyn represents the failed attempt to come to terms with the past. It stands for the many hopes that were dashed. Mikhail Gorbachev never managed to put all the facts on the table. He was afraid it would weaken his position. Yeltsin visited the Katyn Memorial in Warsaw, but he never went to the site of the crime.
Are you hopeful that the Smolensk disaster will move the Russians to shed more light on the issue and help the victims' families to find out what really happened to their fathers and grandfathers?
I don't just hope, I know it can. I think Putin has found a linguistic solution to the problem, which is, yes, we commemorate Katyn as we remember our own victims of Stalinism, and because ultimately we were on the right side in the Second World War. That is the linguistic solution. Fine, if it helps clear up this crime, it can serve as a modus vivendi. But I do think it is important to underline one thing. Russia is also reassessing its policy on Europe. It's realized that Europe is a key partner, and it can only cooperate with, say, the Germans, if Central Europe is part of the equation. Berlin, too, has been sending strong signals over the past years. Talk to the Poles, do something. All this has brought about this new dialogue.
Die Zusammenarbeit mit uns alleine reicht nicht aus. All das hat auch dieses Gespräch, diese Annäherung mit verursacht.
Poland has united in mourning, that is clear, even though the late President Lech Kaczynski was a controversial politician and a controversial leader.
Das wird sich zeigen. Wie vereint die Polen
It remains to be seen how united the Poles are. Poles are accustomed to showing solidarity with one another. It was no coincidence that solidarity was the name of the freedom movement. It was the force behind a peaceful movement. If you don't have weapons, what will help you? Unity, consistency, and cooperation. The big shock, of course, is the experience of pluralism. Solidarity doesn't cut the mustard in a democratic society. And this outpouring of grief is naturally also the longing for more unity. But I'm afraid the political reality and reality in general will soon set in. We will see the differences. It now depends very much on what political leaders do, the language and symbolism they choose, whether they divide or not.
There's been controversy in recent days over the president's burial site in Krakow. It's actually a location reserved for Polish kings and national heroes. A strange debate?
Ein merkwürdiger Streit.
Also zunächst einmal ist der Zeitpunkt nicht gut gewählt.
Well, first of all, it's ill-timed. This is a time of mourning. I understand the family. The family had to make a quick decision, but the location is controversial. There's also an element that has been overlooked by our media. Democratic Poland has no experience of burying heads of state. Fortunately, none of the people who have held high offices over the past 20 years have died. We've been, if I may put it this way, caught off guard, because there is a real desire to give Lech Kaczynski and his wife a different type of burial than a purely private one. I think there is widespread consensus on that. The location is controversial. Wawel is the site of the big heroes, the nation's founder, and Kaczynski is certainly among the three most important presidents. He didn't finish his first term, so an historical analysis is still pending. Many believe it's too early to tell whether he deserves to be buried there.
Die historische Bewertung wird noch stattfinden. Viele meinen, dass zu früh auf den Wawel kommt.
Mr. Kerski, many thanks.
Ich danke Ihnen.
Thank you.